the same thing
It'll be
anyway,
close.
so it'll be close. Is
Pretty
that a
much.
promise?
The only difference is one is videos where one is mostly live stuff. I mean, that's literally
Yeah,
the only difference between the two.
that's a good point. All right, now we're on YouTube, and now we're on Twitch. Now we're cooking with butter. Welcome in to the stream, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to take a look at a pretty good round of action for AFL Round 8, and for my editing sake, 5, 4, 3, 2. You know what? It was another round. It was another round of exciting action. It was another round of predictable action. It was another round of unpredictable action. And just like every single round, I still have no idea what the hell to expect from the season besides Melbourne winning games and Port Adelaide getting blown out of the water. My word, just taking a look at the North game and then the West Coast Eagles, man, Oh, it's not sitting pretty, especially when you want to get blown out and then go clubbing a little bit later that night. Definitely not the best of looks, but who am I to judge? Because they're a footy team and they've won one game, so I guess you could kind of just phone them in as finalists. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to our round breakdown for AFL Round 8. And definitely gonna be a lot to get into, especially because breaking news right before we go on, Leon Cameron is resigning after this round. And as a Giants fan, I'm not going to say I'm happy. I'm not going to necessarily celebrate. But it definitely does put a smile on my face. But Coach Donnie, how are we feeling after round 8 of the AFL season?
Like you, as soon as I think figured out, there's always a curveball or two that gets thrown my way. And to say that this breaking news less than 20 minutes before our live stream goes live, a little bit more to talk about, but it's definitely
Right?
fascinating. I think a lot of people saw this kind of on the wall, especially a few
Mm-hmm.
rounds ago when we had talked about the fact the club had both agreed to stop contract negotiations, which as I kind of thought the entire time, I went, I'm thinking this is more wanting to talk to Cameron anymore more than the other, than vice versa. So I think this
Yeah.
was kind of the writing was on the wall, unfortunately for that one. But yeah, just interesting round. Some man, and so much news coming after. Like you said,
So much.
the whole club interview, and then the fines and all that, and the fact that you had people coming out in the club. Some of these players would have been suspended, but they don't have enough players because of injury and COVID protocols. It's like, man, when it rains, it pours in the West Coast Eagles, unfortunately. So,
Oh, imagine not being able to
unfortunately, they
suspend someone because you don't have enough guys on your roster.
much. So it leads to a very interesting year for the potential wooden spoon run, because as putrid as North was, West Coast wasn't much better. So almost for this intriguing run to the wooden, who's going to and I this way, but who's going to suck more?
No, no, that's essentially what it is. It's a very impressive. We'll coin it the suck off between the West Coast Eagles and the North Melbourne Roos. Oh boy, I feel so bad for them. I feel bad for. Well, I feel more bad for Roos supporters than I do West Coast. I think, or maybe you should feel worse for West Coast because they actually had expectations this season. Well, kinda. They were pretty screwed by in round one. I guess for West Coast, you go from last year where there's a lot of people saying you're going to be, grand final contenders, and now you're losing by almost 100.
I said it at the start of the year. I said I thought this was a possibility with West Coast
Yeah.
injury, everything that was kind of happening this year. I kind of said I thought West Coast could really be in the wooden spoon argument. Right now the only team that isn't wooden spoon argument that I put in there was Hawthorne, and if Hawthorne use these fourth quarter follow, they could be down there with those two quite soon rather than later. They got a couple of wins, so I don't think that's going to be a possibility. I kind of had West Coast down there. I thought with the injuries, the age
which
profile,
is such a bummer,
lack of
man.
young talent. Yeah,
Uh,
just the injuries. They came into the season with the injury bug, and then COVID comes through. It's like they just keep triple whammied, unfortunately. So this is a West Coast team that honestly,
screwed over so bad.
you look at their list and you look at the players that are on there, and you should be winning, but they can't keep everybody on the. And that was absolutely killing them right now.
Can't keep players on the field, can't even keep them on the bench, and you can't keep them out of nightclubs. Not the best of combinations right there. But what we got for you guys is definitely going to take a look at some overreactions, coaching-wise as well, also Melbourne-wise, North and Central, just plain Melbourne, just plain, vanilla. We're going with vanilla. All right. We're going to take a look at the Leon Cameron news, of course, and some big grand final news that's going to have some people happy and a lot of vocal people not so much. And we're going to wrap things out, or kind of taper off with things. Talk about the most disappointing team so far this season. A scary team that can emerge out of the bottom 12, and a team that is currently in the finals, but definitely should be worried. But of course, I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by the best in the business, Coach Donnie, and we definitely got some stuff to get into, so might as well just get into it, ladies and gentlemen. First off, if you're catching us live, thank you so much. If you are not, you can catch us every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern over on Twitch and YouTube. So go check us out. Links are over at thefourthandlong.com, or hit us up on our socials at Fourth and Long Media on Instagram and Twitter. If you're catching us on the podcast version, over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Rumble, anywhere else you're catching us, really appreciate the hell of you. You guys are amazing. And for you Aussies, you are 1% away from being a quarter of our listeners that make up, or at least our audio downloads. So you guys are definitely a huge chunk. So I definitely love you, especially if you're taking some time every morning, maybe get a little coffee. Do they do tea? Is tea or coffee bigger in Australia?
Coffee tends to be the biggest in Melbourne. And that, for those of you that are listening that want to catch this again live, if you don't catch it before, this live 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time,
That's the one.
9:30 Australia, 9 LA time. I can never remember what theirs. And if I remember correctly, it is 8 a.m. Perth or Western Australian time for Perth. So for those of you Australians that maybe didn't catch this live, that want to catch this live next week, those are the time frames when we usually go live. And just a heads up, Ross, I'm not sure if you see this on the YouTube, but currently our YouTube thinks UFC 279 recap instead
It's
of AFL.
updated. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. It's updated. You know, the funny thing is how it is, I'm stupid when it comes to technology. I haven't figured it how to change it before streaming. I know how to change it when you start streaming. So I'm just quick.
At least we fixed it, because I was looking at it, I was going,
oh yeah, just refresh your feed. You're fine.
Recap.
Hey, but if you are a fan of MMA or want to be, and you want to listen to our UFC 274 breakdown, go ahead, check us out at thefourthandlong.com/MMA. Fantastic segue there, Donnie. Really appreciate the plug. But we're going to start things off. Grab your coffee from Macca's, put a little bit of Vegemite on that biscuit, because we're going to break into things. We're going to start things off with our overreactions, and we're going in hot this round. First things first, want to talk about is the West Coast, or the Western Bulldogs situation currently is they're obviously not in a horrible spot. They're definitely been in a bit of a disappointing spot and aren't performing the way that we thought they would before the year. Injuries definitely have not helped that at all. Right now, if you take a look at the ladder, they're sitting right there at 10, just 4 points out of it, trailing behind Collingwood 16, who's at 9, then Richmond at 16, who's in the 8th spot. But they've gone 2 and 3 in their last 5, and most recently lost to the struggling but apparently starting to surge Port Adelaide Power. But with that being said, Donnie, statement number 1 for round 8 overreactions is that good old Bevy is on the hot seat.
Oh man, I saw this on the rundown sheet, and I at first I thought this was a typo because I was looking at it going back on the hot seat. I'm not sure. I think this is an overreaction.
Mhm.
Bit of West Coast's major issue has just been the injury bug has like it has never hit them before. I mean, their key defenders are down with being out, Cordy having injuries. Then they lose their what many people could argue is the top Australian ruck in Tim English. At the time of his injury, Hunter out with that leave away from the club due to some maybe some mental health issues. So it's just
Mhm.
he has injuries everywhere, injuries or people not playing in every single place that he can. And I don't feel like the Doggies have played as well as they had. Now again, he slipped down after being up top of the ladder for most of the year, but they still get to the grand final. So I'm not going to panic too much. I think he's on the hot seat, but it is one of those where does the questions start getting asked if this round you have a Collingwood team that also has had the man flu run through it wild, which has left them at times not knowing how many players are going to be election this week or not.
Mhm.
This is almost a month for the Doggies to kind of keep their season afloat when it comes to trying to make the finals. Considering you look at them on the ladder, yeah, they're a full game back and behind Collingwood on percentage. So even this win only draws them even with Collingwood at 9, and then you have Richmond at 8. So the Bulldogs have a little bit to do, and they're going to need a little bit of help because they have to make sure that they win more than they lose, and just gotta hope that St Kilda, Richmond, Sydney, Collingwood, those teams in and around that area stumble a couple of times and give them that chance to get into the final. So no, I don't think Bevel is on the hot seat. I think this is no,
Mhm.
but change over the next couple of rounds with a couple of losses could definitely make his seat get a little warmer than it is currently.
I guess it's just an interesting thing that I want to see because kind of comparing the, I don't want to call it outrage, but the disgruntlement, I guess if that's a word, towards the head coaches is in I'm comparing that to the Ken Hinkley situation. The guy that started off they started off was 0-5 and now they've won their last 3. Ken Hinkley was really on the hot seat. There are a lot of fans, especially poor Alex Borges, calling for his head essentially. If you saw the Twitter replies, it was not a pretty scene. But it doesn't feel like there's been that same discernment against a beverage here. So, are those situations comparable, or is it just because he didn't start 0-5, but they still have the same record?
I could see a lot of likenesses to this. I think the issue is that the Western Bulldogs didn't fight. They didn't have
Hmm.
in the season.
Yep.
They weren't at the bottom of the ladder with 60 at 65 percentage points after 5 games and footy to the point where they were barely scoring, and when they weren't scoring enough, they were getting absolutely plastered on the scoreboard. So I can see comparisons. I think Hinkley, a little bit of it also is the fact that Port Adelaide is a very kind of tight knit club. It's very because of its connection to the sample. Hinkley's kind of an outsider. And I know
Mm.
I've discussed this with that there are people that still believe Hinkley has never really been accepted, shall we say, but he's never as coach. Like he's got a lot shorter leash than say a Port Adelaide great, both of the Magpies or Power. Like they're going to get a lot more leash. Hinkley's a Victorian, so Hinkley's not from the sample. He didn't play for Port Adelaide. He's an outside. So I look at it. I think he's on a much shorter leash when it comes to it. Now the good thing is back these last few weeks, they're starting to look good. They're starting to get the chances that big Charlie Dixon could be back as early as this round makes me kind of think that I think Port Adelaide might smoky in the bottom half of this ladder, that you need to start looking at eventually that danger team that could jump several teams and find themselves in that bottom part of the final 3 to 4 rounds.
Absolutely, you really definitely a team that you don't want to count here. And speaking Charlie Dixon, I don't know if you guys got this, but there's a fantastic picture taken over the for the last round with Dixon and Fantasia, and I know that is a size discrepancy between the two, but this picture made either Charlie Dixon looks like he's bigger than Mason Cox, or Fantasia looks like he's a little midget. It was a fantastic angle. I don't know. I just found that really funny. But Charlie Dixon definitely is a guy with quads to make any man jealous. I'm coming after him. I need those. But moving on. Segment number 2. The 2022 North Melbourne Roos are the worst team in league history.
Oh. I still believe this is an overreaction because this is still very early. Because I did a little bit of research before we went on here, and when there was a long run where St. Boons for like 6 or 7 consecutive years in a row.
What decade was that?
Yeah, St. Kilda at one time lost nearly 50 games in a row. So I'm not sure if I'm going to. When they first came into the VFL, and then the other one that I've heard that a lot of people talk.
Oh, so this was a little bit ago, though.
A little bit. The closest one that we could Fitzroy, who eventually merged with Brisbane, became the Brisbane Lions. 96 went 1-21 and had a 49.5 percentage at the end of the season. So right now, they have as many in North as Fitzroy does. There's still a long season.
And you said 49.5 percentage points.
49.5. Yep. In the
so
AFL,
the Roos are sitting at 55.6. So they're about 6 percentage points off. If North loses out, they can rifle them.
Well, you also got to look at West Coast. And West Coast is not out of the woods yet.
West Coast at 52.
I mean, they're 52. They have only won one game now. They're going to get some more reinforcements as this year goes on. I think West Coast will get a couple more games. So I think it's not like that. But man, when I saw that Fitzroy record of 1-21 with a 49.5 percentage, it's hard to argue that's not one of the worst. Considering I think they were also a team that got beat one time, 239 to something. The score was absolutely ridiculous. When
was the last time someone put up 200 points?
Yep.
It's been a while, right? I don't remember seeing that since I started watching. Oh.
So it was very interesting to look up some of the records. Is it somebody in the Saints in a 100-game stretch were 2-98.
You know what?
So
it's kind of hard to
I'm going to say this is an overreaction because I think again we're still early in the season. So North Melbourne could pip a couple more wins and make this moot in the long run. But it is a very interesting conversation but I think we also got to look at West Coast. Like I said, can they get some wins? Because if they don't, they're not tracking much better, unfortunately.
I guess their upside's a little bit more. Luckily, the Eagles have an out where, they're losing, but they're also not. They're not full strength. The Roos are losing, and this is their best team, essentially, that they're putting out onto the field, or at least.
I'm not sure if this is best because they don't. Well, Ben Cunnington
better than West Coast,
and he's out with testicular cancer, unfortunately. So.
Yeah. Maybe they're better than West Coast, but also that's not saying a whole lot.
This is very true, and I've also seen it too. Because they brought up their delisting list is North Melbourne has delisted something that was like 21 players in the last 2 seasons. So the fact that they are where they on the club as well because they dropped a lot of players, including guys like Mason Wood, who's over with St. Kilda, having a pretty decent season. I look at it as this is a little bit of a young list that's going to go through its growing pains, but a little bit of the club kind of setting their team up to fail a little bit, which I hate saying that because North Melbourne is a very prideful club, but they've put these young men into the opportunity into a very bad situation, and even to the point where Jason Horne-Francis has stopped negotiations. He has one more year on his contract, has to do through, but the fact that he already ended contract negotiations is not a good look for North Melbourne because I know both Port Adelaide and Adelaide are very, very keen to South Australian back onto South Australian soil and into their team, including I even saw somebody threw up. It said, if you're a North Melbourne fan, would you take Josh Rochelle and 2 first-round draft picks for Jason Horne right now? Would you take as if you were the list manager at North Melbourne, would you take Josh Rochelle, their number 6 overall pick, first round draft picks and future picks for Jason Horne-Francis in this upcoming offseason? Because you may not be able to re-sign him, and if you lose him for free, you get nothing out of it. So it's a very interesting.
I think that's a hell of a trade, to be honest.
It gets you 3 picks
see
instead
him
of 1.
resigning. Don't see him resigning. So you might as well make that move.
It's still early. I don't want to again.
There's going to have a lot to happen to change his mind, though. Is the thing that trade is definitely the safer option. Definitely the safer option. If I'm North, I am not risking losing him for free. Absolutely not. I mean, you're bad, but you still have stuff to lose. I think the end of the story here is Roos fans. I'm so sorry. That's all.
Like I said, we'll have to see. It'll be a very interesting offseason, especially. Does North Melbourne try to see the writing on the wall and try to get ahead of this or not? We'll have to see. Maybe they're confident back. They can get a few agents to sign with them, and then maybe it on its head a little bit and do it. Yeah. But you just never know. Sometimes you bring in a couple of good free agents, you get them in the right spot, you get a groove, and you win a. Jason Horne-Francis sees the writing that you're on a positive thing, and he resigns. So, again, a lot of things still to go, but it's not good signs at Arden Street for North Melbourne right now because it's just not looking good. That is not a good vibe going into another very difficult round of footy this week,
to say the least. And speaking about very good footy, let's flip things off. Last statement is concerning the other Melbourne team, and that is the Melbourne Demons. But statement number 3 of our overreactions, Donnie, I think this was definitely a little bit closer to being a non-overreaction side, is that the Demons are not the most feared team anymore.
As much as I want to say this isn't an overreaction, I think it is because I'm going to say, I hate saying it, I don't think Melbourne's even playing their best footy yet. Legitimately, I do not think they are. I think they are sitting on neutral, if not gear 1 of 6 gears that they can. They haven't even.
So you're not going to read into the last few performances. Is that what I'm hearing there?
I don't look at this last round. They played a better team in St. Kilda and still pretty much dominated the game. I mean, St. Kilda had its moments. I think the third quarter, St. Kilda finally kind of. I think St. Kilda fell into the trap. Oh my God, we got to change our game to make sure that we don't get blown out by Melbourne instead of just going. Like Hawthorne had to change because Hawthorne was severely outclassed talent-wise. St. Kilda, I thought, was much closer talent-wise. Again, Melbourne is kind of in a stratosphere of its own when it comes to scales and stars, but I still thought St. Kilda had the abilities in certain sections to make Melbourne think a little bit. And Kilda panicked. They overthought it. They tried to play the kick mark, keep it away from, a lot like what Port Adelaide did, and kind of play kick mark and try to keep it away from Melbourne. And Melbourne just said, okay, we'll just wait till you stuff it up and then we'll make you pay for it.
They'll score,
boy,
essentially.
Did that happen.
Yeah.
But then the funny thing is when they go to the third quarter, St. Kilda went, you know what, stuff it. We're probably going to lose this. Let's just go for it. And that's when they battle back. That's when they started catching They started playing fast footy. They started using handball. They started attacking the defense a little bit better. They were getting marks inside 50, and they cut the deficit down. The
Do you
problem
really
is,
think that the
is
Demons were afraid though?
no, oh no, 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 no.
Yeah.
The D's just kind of they played their game. Again. I don't think they're out of second gear yet. They're not even at full strength. They're playing their best footy, which, if I'm a D's fan, is both encouraging, disappointing because they're not playing footy. Honestly, believe
So
they
crazy.
will. I think they will win the game this year. I don't think they're going to go undefeated. As dominant as they've been, I don't think they're going to be undefeated. And honestly, if I'm a D's fan, I want that. I do not want an undefeated team going into the finals because
No, I
a
agree.
lot of times the top team, if you go in too confident, you get nipped. I mean, look at Collingwood, what Collingwood did to Richmond in 2018. Everybody thought there's no way Collingwood's going to win this game. I mean, Richmond is just far superior. Look what happened. You get one star, one night, have an amazing game, and an entire season's results basically are left moot because the best team in the entire league, the entire season, out in the pro. So if I'm the Melbourne Demons, I don't mind not being at my best. I'd rather be at my best come finals time. And in some situations, I think a loss will be good for this D's team because it will make sure that they don't just paper over any cracks that they have. Not that they have many. They have very, 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 very few flaws on this team. But still is feared because everybody knows how good they can be. And the scary part is we still haven't seen better Melbourne yet, which is terrifying.
That's a horrible thought. Honestly, I guess I wouldn't say worried about Melbourne, but I definitely saw that over the last few rounds, this is a beatable team, which they still are. But the way you put it, it definitely you're right. You're right. This is a team that still makes mistakes while they play, and then they still win by 40 points or so. That's the only game I was a little bit worried about was 2 rounds ago against Hawthorne. Um, I guess that's the most beatable they felt all year. That's the most mortal they felt all year. But also, a lot of factors go into that one. It's all right. Let's see here.
Remember the caveat: no Jackson, no Petty. They were down. They were down
Exactly.
5 or 6 guys. So it's
So I
one
want
of
to
those.
see if you had to guess right now. Who do you think they lose to first? So I'm just going to. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to run through their schedule, and you're going to stop me when you think that they might actually lose that game, okay? Or even they are.
The team most likely to beat them.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. So West Coast, North Melbourne,
no, heck
Fremantle,
no.
Sydney, Collingwood.
Here's the thing: Fremantle
Okay.
can. I
Okay.
don't think they will. Freo can because Freo is very much built like Mel, but
hmm
just a tiny bit differently because they don't have the massive superstars in the midfield that
Do you think Frio or Brisbane has in style of offense has a better chance to beat the D's defense?
honestly, I think Brisbane has the offensive abilities to damage Melbourne. The issue now is that Danaher's injured, Hipwood's injured.
hmm
That's the
I guess
thing
both
right now for
fully,
me.
both teams fully healthy. Let's make that
Both
assumption.
teams fully healthy. I think Brisbane and Geelong are the two teams that, for me, in the regular season are the most in the home away, the most dangerous teams because they have two big full forwards, and after May, there's not a ton of size to guard the size of the full forwards that you're going to see on these two Brisbane on these two teams. Honestly, Brisbane, unfortunately, in round 15 when they play them first, I don't think they're going to be fully healthy. So I have a hard time seeing that. Honestly, and I know they've not played as well, but I think Sydney's ball movement, if they play quick and they use their pace and speed, I think that could get them in trouble. But again, their youth in this year has nipped them in a couple of games, especially this last one against. But honestly, I think round 7, the Cats game again in round 17, I think could be interesting. You will see Charlie Dixon back for Port, and I think Port will be much better round. A scary game for them, and then Brisbane 3 is definitely another one that I who's extend Dan all back because that gives a lot of headaches to Melbourne as Lever and May can't both sag off their mid defense. So it'll be very interesting to see. But I think Smokey is Carlton. I didn't have the way as Carlton's midfield is, and if Harry Mackay and Curnow are going well, that is matchup nightmares. The only thing that scares me about Carlton is that defensively, again, this is round 22 I'm looking at, defensively right now, Carlton is terrible. They are still showing weakness on that back line. I think by round 22, that is mostly fixed. So there are opportunities for the D's to drop one. But honestly, that almost may help them more than it hurt them. And I know it's really weird to say this. Melbourne going into the finals, if they lose the game, into the finals undefeated. So that's a storyline I look at is a loss to Melbourne could actually be a blessing in disguise. It could be the biggest thing for Melbourne because then that we have to be undefeated at the end, and everybody's going to go into the finals carefree because nobody's going to expect them to win. Them play free fun footy, which might actually give.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I've always felt like it's a good thing to know what it's like to lose, because you can at least see your faults. You can at least see you at what's your worst for that year, and it's easier to assess that. But if you just kind of walk through everyone during the regular season, things might not end up well. You might be able to make it through the playoffs, but once you get to that championship game, that's a different story. Take a look at the Patriots in the mid-2000s, that undefeated team that ended up losing it all in the Super Bowl. Shout out Eli Manning for stopping Tom Brady from getting 2 more Super Bowls than he would have. That man is a hero. If you are a fan of Gridiron, go ahead, check us out weekly over at thefourthlong.com/NFL. But let us know your thoughts on that one. Are the D's beatable or vulnerable? Who do you think they might be able to lose to? How bad are the North Melbourne Roos? And what is your take on the situation regarding beverage there? And also, speaking of beverage, what's your favorite? Let us know. Is it High C? Is it Sprite? Is it, I don't know, Coke? I don't know. I'm curious. That's his name always just has me thinking, oh, Coach drink. I could maybe go for maybe a local Australian beer. I don't know what the name's. It's probably like a kangaroo themed beer.
It depends on where you're at. I know Melbourne Carlton draft is definitely a big one. Queens Northern is another one that's big. Cooper's is big in Adelaide. I'd have to look. I'm not 100% sure if there's a regional beer in Perth that's
Hey, all I know is that there's beer all across the land except when you're at the MCG. I'm still going to milk that joke. I do not care. But we're going to hop into a couple of interesting storylines coming up here. Like I said earlier, fairly controversial. Especially there's some people that will die on this hill. So we're definitely going to get into it. But first things first, Leon Cameron has informed the GWS Giants as of about 30 minutes ago of us being live right now. And I guess it would be the morning of Thursday there in Australia that he is officially resigning from the GWS Giants after this round. And first thing, I guess, especially as a GWS supporter, I'm not shocked that they're going to be parting ways. Of course, there's a contract news that came out about it recently, whether or not they kind of stopped contract talks. But I'm also kind of surprised. I was expecting him to finish out his tenure in GWS. I was expecting him to finish out this season. So definitely an interesting thing that's going to play into here. And I guess two of the biggest questions is, one, are they going to try to just have a filler coach for the rest of the season, or are you going to try to bring in one of those names in now? And then also, who are you going to bring in? I guess my kind of thoughts on this one before I go to you, Donnie, is that I have zero problem if they just maybe bring up an assistant coach from the team, make them an interim head coach throughout the season, and then wait till the off season to go after that your Nathan Buckley, to go after your Clarko, just because. What's the point? The Giants aren't going to be contending for the finals this year. There's no need to rush in to bring that new head coach in. It's better to give them a full offseason to get acclimated to this team so you actually have hope starting next year when you actually have the Giants still have a chance to compete for the finals next season. So there's that bright side for us supporters. Yay. Let's just get this season over with. Sweet damn. But and also the other bright side to that is kind of what I was telling you before we started we went live, Johnny, is that I see zero downside to taking an existing staff member, putting him in the position of head coach, letting them take over the team, letting them take over as a true list manager, and just seeing what they can do. If it's that one guy, if you maybe play around with multiple guys on that staff just to see what they can bring to the team. You're playing with house money at this point. There is zero pressure riding on them. It's really just meant, hey, go out there and see what you can do, because we're not going to be really. There's no expectations at this point. It's almost better if they lose games, because then you get a higher draft pick. I know we don't want to tank, but if you lose, you lose, and that's not the worst thing here. I think they should pretty much do a tryout, just see what you can do, bring your best. Give them a few games each if you really need to. There's no need to rush into Clarko or Buckley here, and it's almost better if you don't.
It's a very interesting kind of situation that we find ourselves. I, like you, thought Cameron will get to the end of the year, he'll walk away. I didn't see any way for GWS to want to re-sign him. Like, I thought he'd walk away, he'd finish the season, and then he'd step away and either take another job or take a year off or assistant coach in another club. Do one of those things. Him stepping away now basically tells me to myself is he knew it was over. He knew 2 or 3 more rounds, and most likely he was going to get sacked. So get ahead of it. Walk out on your own terms. Know you're not going to make it to the end of the year. Dignity, with a little bit of pride, and step away yourself. So I applaud Leon for kind of taking the decision away from the club and doing it himself. People say, well, he quit, he resigned. Well, yes, but he's also in a no-win situation, because if he wins more, then they may try to resign him. Who knows if Leon Cameron wants to continue coaching there?
First off, at that point, thank God that they're not even going to run that risk anymore. There's no more Leon Cameron hot streak that can get him re-signed. That is only a good thing.
As the GWS fan gives me his honest to God opinion on that one, and the opposite, where where every game that he loses just downgrades him more, to the point where he's probably going to get let go in the next few rounds. Or my best case scenario, other than that, was he gets round. So then the caretaker coach, which a little bit of Australian terms here, the caretaker coach or interim coach he used in the States, could then have the bye round to teach whatever he's going to change, if he changes anything. And then the bye GWS plays, the caretaker coach takes over for Leon Cameron like nothing happened, like nothing changed. So again, it's a very weird round 8, especially with the bye rounds coming up here. It's like I almost would have thought Leon probably might have tried, but maybe he saw no positive gain in continuing to coach. This gives an assistant coach a chance to take over as caretaker and see if they can make some just to try to save a little face. Whether they do or don't, again, it's up to me. But I want to rewind just a tiny bit. Sydney Swan supporter, what Leon Cameron did at GWS is something to give him a round of applause for, because
thank you. I'm not hating on the man.
Exactly.
Absolutely not. I've been saying that the last couple weeks.
He was the start of it. At the start of it, a lot of talent, but he had very few workhorses. So he had a lot of issues of a lot of guys playing meat footy, where it was all about their stats, their goals, their things, and he kind of got him to play more team like. seasons, he really has kind of brought a workman-like mentality and some workman-like players into this club to where it's not all glitz and glam and superstars at the GWS Giants. It's not the superstar club anymore. It's a gritty team that can play gritty football at times. Stars. Yes, there's still a ton of talent on this roster, but unfortunately, the GWS that the AFL kind of set up, it's a really good shot at being very good early. It didn't get the accomplished, and that was a flag, and that's the one.
All because that one
himself.
infamous kick, right? That one kick that cost
I don't know
GWS
about
a
the one
flag.
infamous. Yeah. So and that's kind of it. So again, Cameron, in all, I applaud Cameron for his work. He did so much for the GWS Giants. He really has helped establish the club early. Last year again, he waved his magic wand last year and took an average GWS team in the middle of the season and got them into the finals and got them to a semifinal. So you got to give the guy credit. He can coach. He just ran into one giant problem: injuries, inconsistency, and a lot of superstars. So,
comedic genius, Donnie.
and that wasn't even intentional. It was not. I was not
exactly. You're that good. Don't even think about it. But thank you for bringing up that great point. I definitely do not want to look back on the Leon Cameron tenure with a negative light. I think, given the cards he was dealt, Leon Cameron did a good job as a head coach. But kind of my thoughts over the last couple of rounds is that the reasons to move on is not because necessarily he's not. All right, sorry, he hasn't been having the best of seasons this year, but I'm not going to classify him as a bad head coach. He is not a bad head coach, but the Giants just need to go in a different direction. This is a crossroads. This is what they're choosing. This is going to be more beneficial for both sides. And I really do wish Leon Cameron all the best. Everything I've seen from him has been great. It's not like he's just a controversial figure as well. He's like, just image-wise, he's also been a respectable leader, a respectable head coach. And I have no ill will towards the man. I wish him the best, but the Giants they need someone else, you know?
That's a new voice. And sometimes it happens. Sometimes a voice grows tired. Tiresome in the locker room. Sometimes and again, it's sad how it ends, the Leon Cameron era at GWS. But to be completely honest with you, this may be the best. Bring in a new voice, bring in somebody who maybe with some ideas, and who knows? Again, we don't know who this caretaker coach is going to be, what assistant coach is going to be. We'll probably find that out probably early next week, probably around a podcast. We'll find out what assistant coach gets the caretaker role. And I 100% agree with you. I do not see Buck. I don't see Clarko. I don't see any new coach coming in until the end of the season.
Buckley leave his nice job right now to go into a kind of a crap show with the current GWS Giants setup. There's no need to put yourself through that. Call your games, man.
You could to get your initial. I think you need more time than what he's going to have to be able to get his structures and his. I honestly, if
because heaven forbid he comes there right now and they do poorly even with him, that's not going to be good for the image. You got a clean slate for everyone.
That's very true. But honest, if I'm GW, be on top of your list. Legitimately, I'd be giving a call to Clarko saying, "Hey, we're going to coach this no matter what. Guys, this is your job. If you want it, you let us know." That. Again, we don't know. Will the Gold Coast Suns job come available? I don't know. Will the West Coast Eagles job come available, which then leaves Adam Simpson without a job? Honestly, Adam Simpson coming to GWS wouldn't be too bad a job either, considering he has been a very successful coach out in Perth. So, and how does Port Adelaide rebound? If not, does Kenny Hinckley find himself with a pink slip? Gives you another.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of
fingers crossed for a reason Hawthorne opens up their head coaching position. I wouldn't mind that.
I doubt Sam Mitchell's going anywhere. But again, you continue with that dream.
I can dream.
So you can continue with that dream.
And you bet I am going to, because It's all we have for this season. So, it's just one of those things. And speaking of it maybe being just one of those things, let's go take a live look at the people that are traditionalists and love the hell out of an afternoon grand final and will not budge because they are not having the best of days. This is about the worst news that they can get in their lifetime, or at least that's what they make it out to be when they are on Twitter. But news coming out recently that the 2022 grand final will be making its triumphant return to the MCG at the Twilight Spot. Donnie, I know our thoughts on this one, especially as Americans, while we not may be the target audience, so we understand why they move it. It's a little bit harder for us to watch. The afternoon timing does play a little bit better. And unless you're American or Victorian, apparently you're probably loving the hell out of this news. What are your thoughts on this one, though?
Well, like a month ago, lengthy discussion with several Australians, and I mean discussion is as I possibly could, telling them, I said, I understand your argument about what, but I'm going to tell you this is financial dollars from TV rights broadcasting and from corporate sponsors are going to far outweigh the fans yelling and screaming, pardon my French, pissing, bitching, and moaning. Like, legitimately, that is the problem that I see is, like, I hear everybody say, well, the majority of people don't. Well, that's not 100% true. I think it's a majority in Victoria.
Yeah.
Victorians, I know you love football, but there's one thing. You don't own the M's, you don't own the AF, and you don't own football. So, plenty of people in Perth and plenty of people in Adelaide don't want it at 2:30 in the afternoon because it's mid-morning, late morning game time. So it's not as cut and dry as I think. And I even saw a poll on the AFL Fans Association, and my favorite kind of point is that they had 1,000 votes. I'm like, that's
how big's Australia again?
That's not exactly a lot. I mean, that's there's over 1 million members in the AFL as a whole. So 1,000. I mean, you're.
And how many of those are Victorian?
That's another fact that a few people brought up too. Do I understand many people's argument on it there? Yes, I understand. Yeah. But let me also kind of retort back to some of them. Well, if it's a 2:30, you get plenty of time to soak up the victory. It's a night. So what makes you have to go to bed? Do you have to do anything on Sunday? And I don't want to go into religion, but I think the good Lord will be okay with you missing Sunday church the next day if you're out celebrating your grand final win. So that's not exactly a great argument.
Hey, repaying the prayers you said to get to that win in the first place.
Go to a twilight. Kids can't go to the twilight or early evening because they have bedtimes. It's Saturday. Again, why do they have a bedtime on Saturday? Let them stay
Also,
up.
I'm sorry. I don't think the children that have those early bedtimes are... I don't think those children are the prime audience, Donnie. Don't get me wrong. But I do not believe that children with early bedtimes are prime AFL advertiser audience.
And that's the last one. Everybody's like, Victorians are the ones that are screaming about it. Is that your TV audience in a night grand final are going to be higher in Queensland and in New South Wales, which are not AFL cities. Perth is going to be higher. Adelaide's going to be higher. All the other states in the country are going to have higher rankings when in a twilight and a PM start than Victoria. So I understand why you want to keep it in a traditional spot. And again, I will state this, and I stated it in every tweet that I had in these discussions. I wanted it 2:30 because it's an 11:30 start for me. So it's not.
We're on your side. We're on your side.
So I'm with you. But the writing's on the wall that for the last 2 years, the advertisers want it later because they will get more eyeballs on their product, which will then mean they get more money for ad slots, and you're going to get a better TV if your grand final is at a prime time game spot. Again, too many things that are going to be good for the league financially, which with everything the league's going to handle with right now financially,
Mhm.
potentially coming through with the concussion doctor, the AFL trying to expand, the AFLW expanding to 18 teams, and the
Gotta get that
players
money.
really pushing for trying to get them to become professional. The AFL is going to need a little bit more to be able to afford some of these moves. So, me that this is going to be a Twilight final, and again, I'm going to say this: if you don't like it, ladies and gentlemen, you better boycott it. And if you don't, you have nobody to blame. You did exactly what the AFL knows. You're gonna watch the game. You're not gonna boycott it. Do boycott it. There's not gonna be enough to make enough of a dent to minds.
I
I'm
guarantee
not
you, there's more
saying
people that watch it because it's at night than don't watch it because it's at night. Probably at least by a tenfold margin as well. Hey, all I gotta
and that's
say is on this too, Donnie, with the Twilight. Congrats to local fireworks manufacturers and sellers because now you can finally use your products in a way better light or lack thereof. So they're the real winners
yeah.
from this one, aren't they?
I think the AFL, the MCG might have a cladding issue, so I'm not sure if they can actually shoot fireworks there. So I think that's
Never
kind of a moot
mind.
point there. I
Ah,
think
damn it.
I
I
heard
thought
that
I was
somewhere.
onto
Whether that's
something.
one, I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but I'd heard that they said I don't think they can actually shoot fireworks off the MCG anymore because of something. Don't 100% quote me on that one, but
Well, the more you know.
again, to all the Australian fans that are watching this, again, I 100% understand all of the arguments. I 100% agree with you. I'd rather have it at 2:30. I'm a realist when it comes to it. I know what's going to talk and what's going to make the most sense for the AFL financially and for it going further, and that's a bigger TV on. And that's more money when it comes to advertising. The plain and simple truth. Not begrudge you. I am actually 100% you on. It's just
We
I
agree.
really I've really come to it, and we've seen it. I mean the NFL, they're going to vote with their pocketbooks, not with what's best for the fan
Bro,
experience.
imagine if the NFL had an afternoon Super Bowl. Ain't no way in hell that they actually do that. No freaking way that the NFL ever has an afternoon game unless the end of the world is happening and they want to get in one last quarter before the earth blew up. That's maybe the only time I see that happening here. Oh,
Then the Super Bowl
the
commercials are only
rage.
5 million.
Well, no, we're thinking to the future. So inflation, $100 million commercials for 30 seconds of ad time.
Oh
Oh,
boy. Oh boy.
oh.
I get. I stated it, and I had a few people say I was crazy, and I'm probably gonna go try to find those tweets and save them and go, well, this AFL, and I'm not gonna mean it meanly, but it's just the honest, and I said it in every tweet. I said I just know this is gonna happen. I don't need facts because I've to Damian Barrett. I listened to the AFL, and I know what's gonna in the long run. I understand fans go, why aren't they doing it for the fans? Yeah, but the one thing the fans do is the fans are gonna come and watch the game, because if they don't, then act on the pocketbook. If you don't, which unfortunately most Australians are not going to skip the grand final, they're going to take a hit, so they're not going to see anything wrong with it, and they're just going to deal with it.
The AFL does not care about your mean and angry tweets. They care about money. And are your tweets making or losing them money? Probably not. So you can just note that your opinion will be ignored by the league, but your opinion will not be ignored by us. So make sure and make your voices heard in the comments. Hit us up over on socials on Instagram and Twitter at Fourth and Long Media, and we'll definitely reach out to you because we love take a look at your comments. A lot of you bring a lot of great insight to it. A lot of you guys just like calling us out for not using Australian lingo. That is also okay. I don't take offense to it. You're just kind of a dick, but it's okay. We still love you. And I haven't, over the last couple rounds, I have not been called out for insulting the almighty Snag. So, haven't gone into hot water with that. I believe, if anything, I see more support for my takes on Vegemite. So I've been pretty impressed by that. But what we're going to hop into now, guys, before we get into Team of the Round and our tips for round 9 of the AFL season, it's time to say what the blank. And round 8 was no exception to any other round this year. I caught myself saying that a lot, especially when I would take a look at the final scores and be like, oh, how the blank did that happen? But in fact, this is what the blank. This is a segment where we have Donnie being put onto the spot as we give him 3 statements, each of them having a blank at either the beginning, middle, or the end. And it's up to him to fill it in with whatever he so chooses. Of course, let us know your blanks on this one as well. Sound off in the comments, or like I said, hit us up on our socials. But Donnie, starting us off, what the blank number 1? Blank is the most disappointing team through the first 8 rounds.
Well, some people would. I know I've heard this question asked to a few people because we are 8 games in, so we're basically about a third of the way through the season.
Few teams,
and everybody's like North Melbourne, West Coast, and I go, well, honestly, if I follow my preseason thing, I had West Coast and North bottom. So that really
disappointment requires expectations.
Exactly. So right now, honestly, there's 2 teams that I think are kind of tied, but I'm going to pick one out of the two. Essendon right now is my most disappointing team because I saw them in the finals. I saw them progressing and getting better this season, and they have regressed dramatically, unfortunately. Yes, they got a big win over Hawthorne, but again, I'm kind of questioning whether Hawthorne is really as they were at the start of the season, because I think they caught a couple of teams early, like a Port Adelaide that was not playing well. So honestly, I just say Essendon is it because they just a lot in there. I mean, you even had one of the greats of coaching saying that grand final and flag contender. 16th right now with a 78.3 percentage at this time with only 2 wins on the trot out of 8. It's difficult not to see them as a team. Yes, GWS is there, but I thought GWS was going to be an interesting team this year. They could potentially be in the playoff. They could potentially make finals, or they could be a team that slides out just because they have had so much kind of influx there. So I'm gonna say Essendon right now, just because of expectations that I had at the start of the year, where I saw West Coast and North Melbourne both in the bottom 5. So they're not really.
That's super fair there. I guess as a GWS supporter, of course they're disappointing as hell, but also at the end of the day, I'm not super surprised by this one. And like you said, for North, they just weren't that good of a team coming into the season. West Coast, they were battered to hell coming into the season. I guess the one that stands out to me the most as of now, and yeah, you can make the excuse that they are injured. It's the Western Bulldogs. Just because, come on, you were a grand final runner-up last season, and right now you're sitting at 3-5, and those losses have not been pretty. Definitely going to be some ground to make up. Definitely a few teams you could use here. Port Adelaide also not out of the conversation as well. But going from one side of the spectrum to the other, we're going from disappointment to hope, Donnie. So, segment number 2. The scariest bottom 12 team is blank. And of course, the bottom 12 includes St. Kilda, Richmond, Collingwood, the Doggies, Adelaide, Hawthorne, and you really don't have to include anyone else, maybe besides the Dons. Maybe the Crows? I don't know. Let's be honest.
I love the way you phrase this question, because it does open up a couple of teams that I at the start. Biggest team. Honestly, I think it's Port Adelaide. Because Port Adelaide is getting healthy and they're starting to play much better
in a row.
I think the Western Bulldogs is kind of the opposite. Richmond, I want to put a ton of stock into a win over a Collingwood team that I still think is. I don't know if this is a Collingwood team that's going to be for finals or is going to start dipping down the ledger this year. Richmond is a team again. Yes, it was so 100% best team in the game is nothing but good for the AFL. But I think Port is the scariest team because if they get on a roll again, they've got Aliir, Charlie Dixon is coming back, Gracio Fantasia is coming back, a lot of there, and they're winning games top ruck. So they're doing it with a backup ruckman and a midfield that many people were saying earlier this season it was old, couldn't do what they needed to do, and weren't going to help them win. All they wanted to come back and continue and come back absolutely insane. And then you also look at it too. It's like Travis Boak is continuing his solid play.
Yes, he is.
And and the best part is they've taken Butters and Rosie and flung them into the midfield a little, which I think has really kind of given them pizzazz out of the mid. That win over St. Kilda kind of got the proverbial back, shall we say. And they've started to kind of play much, much better footy, and they're getting winnable games for winning them. So, which is going to give confidence, which is going to make them much more dangerous as they the better teams in the league as this season goes on. So I think the most dangerous team is close Richmond just because they're in that bottom 12. Issue that I see with them is, are they going to be consistent? That's my biggest thing there.
I think that's a great pick right there. If we also want to take a chat over on YouTube, Ditch says Essendon will beat the Swans on the weekend. Oh, coming for the Swannies there, Donnie. And, like you said earlier, that is going to be a close game. Before we went live, we were talking about our tips. That is going to be a close game. Definitely want to stick till the end to hear our full thoughts on that one because, might be another trap game on deck. But capping us off, last statement.
I'll go with it. I don't think he's jumping off too high a limb there. I think this is going to be one heck of a game because the Swans have kind of regressed a little bit. Their inexperience has does Hickey come back? Does he come back in for because they really got dominated? I think it really put Sydney under disadvantage. I think it's really trash talking. I think it's legitimate. If Essendon can play blowing no care footy like they did against Hawthorne, they're a dangerous. But the issue I see with them is in the reason, and again, this is nothing against Essendon. It's just that I wanted them to play like this the entire season, and they haven't. And that's the most frustrating part for me. I said last year, Essendon was one of the teams I loved watching. I thought they were the most fun to keep an eye on because they were exciting. They played fast footy. Again, I want Anthony McDonald-Tipungwuti back. He is an absolutely fantastic player. So
he's insane.
It may be trash talk, but for me, it's not because I'm legitimately as a Swans fan, I'm worried. Essendon is not an easy out. So no matter what my tip is, I still go in this one a little worried because this is not an easy game.
No, I really don't blame you right there. Back-to-back kind of tough games for the Sydney Swans here, but statement number 3 for what the blank is that the blank will drop out of the top 8 come finals. Just taking a look at the current finals teams being put into this, which of course 1 to 8, the D's, Freo, Brisbane, Carlton, Geelong, Sydney, St. Kilda, and Richmond. But Donnie, fill in the blank.
This is fun because I look at it and if you prefer playing, I know I'm a Swans fan, but I say that Sydney falls out of the final because Richmond's playing better again. Richmond, it's like I think they'll drop out because they're in 8th. St. Kilda, I think into the D's again are the D's this year. So it's really, I think the bottom. Sydney, Swans, St. Kilda, Richmond are the 3 most likely because it is very hard once you start getting in 5th and 3rd to lose 2, 3, 4 consecutive games to fall out of the finals. Carlton is the only one top 4 right now that I'm a little bit weary with them just because of the fact that they have been so ugly defensively, and then Harry Mackay's out. So one of their talismans front is
That's
gone.
a tough injury, man.
exactly, and he week, so it'll be very fun
Mhm.
to see how that goes. So those would be the four teams that I'd look at right now. Like I said, just off form, I have to go Sydney, and I hate saying that as a Swan supporter. I hate saying that, but I'm a realist. I'm not going to sit
Yes,
here and
you are.
homer myself and go, "There's no way." I think Sydney has a kind of winning enough games to stay in the finals, but
I think so.
Sydney is the
Mhm.
most vulnerable currently.
Absolutely. And if you take a look at the chat, thank you, AJ, for joining us here. He says that the Tigers will drop out of the finals. They beat Collingwood, and everyone thinks they're, quote, back. And yeah, no,
And
you summed it up pretty damn well.
and I kind of said the same thing. Like again, this is
Yeah.
a Collingwood team that again we really don't know. Are they good or are they okay? Like that's the issue I run into. It's just that it's
That's
kind of
how
been the
good
Tigers
Dusty and
season.
Tom Lynch is.
Well, they get big wins, but they get big wins against teams that I don't think are as dangerous as people kind of make out. Again,
Mhm.
Collingwood from some early games that were winnable, and they won them. Plain as so. Again, still still
Of
left to be
course.
played. So a lot of these kind of fill in. I could say something, and this eight could flip the next couple of weeks. Sydney could run on get a 5 streak, get into the top four, and Carlton could lose four, and Carlton's down in seventh or eighth. Richmond could lose their next four, fall completely out of it. St. Kilda could again. We just don't know, and
Of course.
I think there's so much merit to it because that's just the way this season has been. As soon as you think you have a one curveball and the whole thing changes. Carlton, Harry Mackay. Richmond
Mhm.
does Dusty with another great game. Again, he's one of those impact guys. When he gets the footy, he makes an impact. He's not a 40 possession guy with 14 kicks and 30 handballs and doesn't do much damage. When he gets the footy, he gets it 20 times. He has 8 score involvements, 2 goals, and
That's how he
several
rolls.
goal assists. So that's how Dusty is. So Dusty can make that giant impact, but Dusty, and I say this to the Tigers fans, Dusty can disappear at times, especially in home and away games. He'll
Mhm.
disappear. Like if somebody tags him just right, he's non-existent in the game, which can affect Richmond as well. So I'm AJ, you're completely
Absolutely.
right on that. I hate giving this Tiger back the 8th place. So one loss and
We'll see.
out of the finals again.
Exactly. We'll see with the Tigers. But also to your comment talking about the latest GWS news. Yes, we took a look at that. I think probably about 20 minutes ago at this point in the stream. So I mean, if you go back that a little bit, definitely give our thoughts on Leon Cameron. Essentially, big news. It's interesting. Will they go if they're going to pursue a coach immediately, or if they're going to go with the caretaker for now? Yeah, just jump back a little bit there. Check that out. I'll be keeping my eyes on that press conference as they go live here in a second, just to see if maybe they announce anything to go along with it. If it's just a goodbye press conference, I guess we'll see. But what we're going to hop into now is before we cap things off with our tips round 9. It's time for the only list that matters across the Pacific Ocean. There is only one that reigns supreme, and that is Coach Donnie's team of the round. So, Coach, let us know what you got because, I mean, what for forwards? I'm just going to guess you have to have at least 4 goals this round as well to make the list.
Yep. The
Yep.
only forward that made my list that did not kick four was my bench forward, and they
There you
kicked at
go.
least 3. Again, this is a big year for forwards with big bags. So it's been a fun year. It's definitely made
Mhm.
my job picking my forwards easy. The fun part sometimes is because the defender sometimes
Yeah.
interesting stat to keep an eye on. I like looking at intercept possessions because I know usually that's a really good stat for defenders. But occasionally you get a
Mhm.
defender that pops up and kicks a goal and makes an impact. So I throw them in there. So here we go. Team of the week. We start again with the defenders. I am a coach. Defenses win championships. So We'll start off with Fremantle's Jordan Clark, the Geelong transfer, making an impact with 23 a goal, a behind, 3 intercept possessions, 5 score involvements, 7 marks, 3 tackles, and 473 meters gained. We jump to Richmond, who just has a rotating door when it comes to my team of the week. They are a defender that finds his way in. We start with Nick Broad, 23 disposals, 10 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 7 score involvements, 5 marks, and 200 meters gained. I give credit where credit is due. Gold Coast David Swallow, 24 disposals, a goal, a behind, 8 score involved, 7, 6 clearances, 400. This is Harry Perryman, 25 disposals, 7 intercept possessions, 5 marks, 354. Just for you, Ditch, Dyson Heppel, 25 disposals, possessions, 4 score involvements, 12 and 56 meters gained. Rounding out the a little bit this round, it's Jordan, 3 disposals, a goal, 7 in possessions, 7 score involvements, 10 marks, and 570. We jump to the engine room that is the midfield, and some. This one we start off with the Western Bulldogs. Smith. Disposals, 2 goals, a behind, 6 score involvements, 3 clearances, 4 tackles, and 178 meters gained. Yes, Dusty was back, but I have to give Shai Bolton from the Richmond Tigers had a heck of a game as well, with 21 disposals, 2 goals, 2 behinds, a goal assist, 6 score involved, 5 marks, 3 clearances, and 423 meters gained. Again, Ditch, I'm giving Essendon some credit here. Essendon's Darcy Parrish, 30 disposals, a goal, a behind, 3 intercept possessions, 13 score involvements, 6 marks, 6 clearances, 7 tackles, and 442 meters gained. One heck of a performance by Brisbane's Hugh McCluggage, 26 disposals, 4 goals, 3 intercept possessions, 3 goal assists, 10 score, 4 marks, 3 clearances, 10 tackles, and 353 meters gained. I have this guy every time he plays, he makes my team of the week, and that's Carlton's Patrick Cripps. 35 disposals, 2 goals, 2 goal assists, 12 score involvements, 5 marks, 10 clearances, 7 tackles, and 375 meters gained. Now, here's a little bit of a surprise. We had a down week for Richmond. Not have a lot of massive performances, but I got to give this young man some credit. He had a heck of a game. Max Lynch, 12 disposals, 2 goals, a behind, 3 interceptions, a goal assist, 6 score involvements, 4 marks, 3 clearances, and 18 hitouts for the Ruckman from the Hawthorne performance. These are the guys putting it big sticks. Here we go. Western Bulldogs, 15 disposals, 4 goals, 2 behinds, a goal assist, score involvement, 6 marks, and 227 meters gained. The Richmond Tigers, Tom Lynch, 25 disposals, 6 goals, a behind, 14 score involvements, 11 marks, and 426 meters gained. A guy that I think GWS would love to have back currently, and that's Geelong's Jeremy Cameron, 12 disposals, 5 goals, 2 behinds, 8 score involvements, 7 marks, and 293 meters gained. And as well as Essendon played, this gentleman really was one of the reasons why they won, and that's Essendon. 16 disposals, 7 score involvements, 8 marks, and 372 meters gained. Brisbane's Charlie Cameron, 10 disposals, 4 goals, a behind, 7 score involvements, 6 marks, and 269 meters gained. And then up with Harry Mackay down, and that's Carlton's Charlie Curnow, 21 goals, 3 behinds, 15 score involvements, 10 marks, and 609 meters gained. We jump to the bench here. Start off with a defender who got a lot of action because the West Coast can't keep it out of their defense. And that's Shannon of the West Coast Eagles, 27 disposals, 8 scoring, 8 intercept positions, 8 marks, 4 tackles, and 413 meters. The midfield, I think he played a little bit. I give him a mid. Albans Angus, 31 disposals, a goal, 11 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 13 marks, and 476 meters gained. Comes out of Freo, and that's Big Sean Darcy. 17 disposals, a goal, 6 score involvements, 7 marks, 4 clearances, 3 tackles, 42 hitouts, and 3 meters gained. And we end with the 4. Jeremy Finlayson, 14 disposals, 3 goals, a behind, 9 score involvements, 7 marks, and 11. That, ladies and gentlemen, is my team of the week. A very interesting week this week with getting several guys in multiple spots on the shows you some big time impacts these players in some of these games. So a fun week to put this one together.
I love it. I look forward to that every round. I definitely don't keep hopes that any of my GWS guys are going to make the list. They got to play a little bit better for that one. But, it really is what it is at that point. But we're going to cap things off here with, of course, how we always like to do it, and that is with our round 9 tips. So, Di and I both coming off of a decent round last week. I went 7-2. If the Sydney Swans didn't screw me over, it would have been a little bit better. But, I can't be too mad.
Well, hey, Ross,
I'm just mad that I didn't gain any ground.
Well, I know we haven't discussed it, so I think since we're our tips, let's update everybody on the tip rankings as of right now.
Let's do it.
My co-host for Coach Hess's Sports Corner and very good friend and fellow player for the Des Moines Roosters, Brad Croston, currently leads the tipping competition. There's only 4 in this, so it's not a big one. 53 correct answers with only 19 misses. Ross is in second as we speak with 49 losses. Yours truly at 47 and 25, and then a good work friend of mine who make it forward to make it a little bit more interesting, 42 and 30, 11. Brad, so a 4-game lead on Ross, a 6-game lead on myself, and on my friend Zach. So that is how we go into round 9. Here we go, Ross. Let's pick and see if we can.
Oh, it's going to be tough to pick up those 4 games, especially this round, because really, I haven't even seen Brad's tips. I haven't seen your tips.
Time to do it. You just got to get 1 or two games here there, and you can catch up. You got plenty.
I'm not sure if we do that this round, because I feel like we're going to pick the same teams pretty much damn near for the whole round. It's kind of
there's a couple that might be.
There's a couple.
This first one could be interesting to see how some people go. At least in the tipping competition that I'm in, the team that I tipped is actually the underdog, at least in the tipping competition here between the Collingwood Magpies and the Western Bulldogs. I'm tipping the Pies just because.
Let's go. Me too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm tipping the Pies in this one. It's because I'm not sure whether Tim English 100%. I'm still Bond is coming back. I don't know how 100% he's going to be. I think the Pies, we got a little bit of a reality check last week. I think they're going to play better footy. I'm just this back and forth just because of some of the issues that have kind of went through the Doggies camp over the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to tip the Pies in this one. But I know that this may be going a little bit out on the limb, a little bit considering the Doggies currently are the favorite, at least in the tipping competition that I am looking at currently. Percent of the vote there. So I hear you right. You are tipping Collingwood as well.
This is only underdog I'm going with this round. So obviously, I guess I'll count this as my underdog tip of the round, like I always like to have. I really wasn't going to choose any other underdog besides Collingwood, just because
those Eagles over the Melbourne Demons, even if it is an Optus.
You know what? I was thinking the Optus West Coast Eagles. There is nothing like absolutely not. If they somehow beat the D's, I am okay being wrong because look at these odds. I think we saw $14 odds last round. $1.01 for the Melbourne D's. The West Coast Eagles, $17 on the money. Oh man, what a margin!
Oh boy, that one's gonna be fun. So we
if you got extra like $10 hanging around, I guess you might as well tip West Coast.
just to see.
Just to see. No, but I'm going with Collingwood, not because I trust Collingwood, more just because I don't trust the Doggies at this point. It's one of those kind of tips where I tip the team that I hate the least. Not always the best one with that one. Before we get into Hawthorne and Richmond, AJ, drop another comment in the chat here. GWS to beat Carlton this week. Send the coach off with a win, and I certainly hope so. Let's. I guess I probably should just wait till we got to the GWS tip. Now that I think about it, screw it. I'm just going to jump ahead to one of the last games of the round. GWS and Carlton taking place at Giants Stadium. Man, just imagine if the Giants could win one last game for Leon at home. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. Carlton is just, bottom line, a better team than GWS is. I hate how GWS looked last round. I hate how they looked most of the season. I would love if they could win it for Leon. I'm not counting on it. If they could give them a good game, positive, a win, you might be asking for a little bit much. Donnie, your thoughts?
When I saw Cameron was walking away, usually you do get this bump. You get the you want to send coach off. Happened before. Clark getting sent off at least for the draw. He didn't get a win, but at least got it.
He didn't lose.
The Scott brother who's coaching North Melbourne went out on a win. It's a great story. Thinking even with Carlton, it's going to be interesting to see how it just comes to the without Pittnet and Bruce and Braden Bruce the lighting it up for in the ruck. So it is my only thing that this is the game I look at. Change happens. I'm a little bit more keen to look at this one. I'm still going to tip Carlton, but this is my if I see an upset this round. Besides the one that I did tip with Collingwood the Western Bulldogs, this is the one I see the upset. This is GWS gets that bounce from
the odds kind of show it too.
But I'm going to tip Carlton, but that is the upset. That is the upset game I look at going. If I'm going to tip an upset, besides that, I think it's a strong possibility because he's going to get these guys up. McKay not playing, Pittnet not playing, Proust playing really well for GWS. The ingredients are.
And AJ definitely makes a good point here. Teams seem to get up for a new / even coach because Collingwood was able to do it against Melbourne last year. Definitely a great way to send off Buckley. And a little bit of news coming is while we're on GWS topic, a little bit of news coming from the press conference is that science seemed to point that assistant coach Mark McVeigh will be taking over for Leon Cameron after this round. So it definitely seems like that's something they were going to roll with. Not complaining too much. Guess we'll wait and see how that one goes. But going back up the list of tips here, we're going to take a look at Hawthorne in Richmond. I would enjoy tipping Hawthorne in this one. It would certainly piss a lot of people off, especially those Tigers fans. But I don't see it happening. I like where Richmond's at right now, and I like where Dusty Martin's at as well.
I'm 100%. I'm going to tip Richmond on this one just because Hawthorne, again, they're having the fades, and that is never a good thing, especially with a Richmond team. They usually tend to play really, again, is this the same Richmond team that we saw in the Dynasty 17 and all their flags? No, this is a different Richmond team. It's not the same. But I just of Hawthorne losing games late. They just seem a little bit. In a little bit of this, I think Sam experimenting for the future because he's not using Mira's, Tommy Mitchell's in the midfield bounces as much as he was previously. So I'm going to tip Rich in this one just because I think Hawthorne is still kind of experimenting for the future. So I'm not sure if they're looking at this season as being one where they're going to be competing for a final spot.
Of course. And now we got the next one. We got the streaking Port Adelaide Power. Definitely making a bit of a turnaround since the start of the season 0-5. They have now ridden off 3 straight wins. And they take on the North Melbourne Roos, who they haven't looked great recently. So I'm tipping Port. I'm not going to tip. I don't think I'm going to be tipping North the rest of the season, even when they play West Coast.
I'm gonna go Port for this one too. I think Port is playing much better. North Melbourne, fortunately, it's just they're just everything that can go wrong is going wrong for them, fortunately, and that's kind of the thing that really is hurting them. And so Port is getting a North Melbourne team perfect to where it won't shock me if Charlie Dixon actually gets a week rest just to be sure that he is ready and cherry ripe for season. I think they can get away with being without Charlie Dixon up front.
I think so too. That if you're going to rest him, definitely a good one to do it. Next game at Marvel Stadium, we got the Geelong Cats against the St. Kilda Saints. Now, I think this game might be closer than what the tipping odds might be displaying at this point. 75 going with Geelong, 75% going with Geelong, but Geelong should be able to come out of this one with a win. St. Kilda has been good, not great recently, and Geelong's offense has been going. Unless it was against Frio, which was still a well played game. I like the machine that's coming out of Geelong right now.
I'm going to attempt Geelong. This is one of those. This is a little frightening because St. Kilda is a team. They've got and Geelong is a little bit of headaches with this change of ball movement. So I think that's one that I kind of look at and I go, this is kind of got some of the recipe for an upset, especially considering, does Geelong have a viable ruck off facing Paddy Ryder and Rowan Marshall, which is a dangerous combination sometimes. But I just think the experience that Geelong has, I think, to be able to help them even at Marvel Stadium, which is very much prepped for what St. Kilda likes to do. So I'm going to tip this one, but I'm a little leery because the Saints, they're definitely ripe for an upset here.
I think so too. Speaking about upsets, I think you also might have to put an upset alert on the Sydney Swans and the Essendon Dons taking here at the Sydney Cricket Grounds. 92% tippers going with the Swans. I am as well, but man, if the Swans have another horrible first half, let alone second quarter, like they're really good at doing this season, it might be a long night.
I'm 100% with you as a terrifies me. This absolutely terrifies me because this is an Essendon team that's got momentum, they've got some confidence, and they got some weapons that can do some damage. But I also look at it too is that I think Horse is guys by the scruff of the neck. He's going to shake him. He's going, hey, get your heads right. You're just making mistakes that we haven't made before. I think they're going to come out. I think they're going to come out red hot. I think this could be one of those where kind of shakes away the last couple of weeks and comes out hot. If they come out flat, yes, I am terrified that Essendon can run right over this and run.
Honestly, the second quarter might tell you the result of this game.
I 100% agree. The halftime score could be massive in this. If Sydney is down more than 3 goals, it is danger. It is danger, Will Robinson. It is danger.
For your sake, I hope that Sydney pulls off. For my take wise, I hope Sydney pulls off. AJ says, I don't believe in the Bombers. Saints will get up. I guess only time will tell. I wouldn't put a whole lot of promise into that just because knowing Sydney. But if they could just keep it at least close heading to the second half, definitely going to have a lot of hope there. But the last 3 games that we have to tip, I think they're pretty straightforward. Brisbane and Adelaide, Fremantle and Gold Coast, Melbourne and the West Coast Eagles. I guess the only game in here I would have a little bit of hesitancy is Gold Coast and Freo, just because Gold Coast is that trap game kind of team. But I'm taking the favorites in each one of these. Brisbane, Freo, Melbourne. Call it good.
I'm with you on that 100%. I think Brisbane against Adelaide team. The only thing that scares me a little bit is Adelaide plays the Adelaide Oval very, very well. And Brisbane is down to their full string full forward because Dan McStay is down, Dan Maher is down, and Hipwood still is back from his injury. I think there's enough talent that Hagan can move a few of the magnets. He can change things. I think he'll be okay. But actually, I think that's the danger game. That's the danger game of this 3 because I think Sean Darcy neutralizes wits enough Gold Coast Freo game. And I think Freo has been playing super well, really good. I see Freo playing really, really well in that game. I mean, that's going to be a bloodbath if Melbourne actually plays decent footy legitimately. They don't even have to play great footy, and that's going to be a bloodbath the way it's been going. So, actually, of those 3, I think Adelaide is the scarier game for Brisbane because, again, they're a young team, and because of young teams, they can get up for a big game like this and completely flip this game on its head. So I'm going to tip Brisbane, but Adelaide, keep on it. That could be a fun one for the Lions, especially after the Dan McStay injury.
Absolutely. And ooh, there it is. Would you believe if I told you AJ was a D's fan? You know what, man? If that's the case, he says go D's, so I'm assuming you're a supporter. You could of course confirm that. Congrats to you. Because you actually have some hope. I guess you would have loved our comments earlier in the show here, that they're not even playing their best footy. But yeah, if they don't beat the Eagles by at least 50, I'm going to be disappointed in this team. Of course, I think that might be setting the bar too low for them as well, to come to think of it. Gosh, man,
Yeah,
what a team. What a team the
it'll be
D's are, what a
super
team
interesting.
the Eagles are. Oh, man. But our tips for the
Could be a
round.
bloodbath. That
Man,
could be a bloodbath, even if Melbourne is at 75%. That could be a bloodbath because that's just how good Melbourne is.
I'll hope for a bloodbath just because I'm a horrible person. So we're gonna definitely see what happens over at Optus Stadium. Who knows, Donnie? It's the Optus Stadium Eagles. They're going to win this game, right? We have to tip them. Oh man, that run might be coming to a hard end here once they lose by 100. But those are our tips for round 9, and that's just about to wrap it for us for our round 8 breakdown of the AFL season. Thank you so much if you joined us, whether it live. Special shout out to you, AJ. You've been amazing. Can't wait to see you next week as well. Same time, same place. For all those tuning in right now on the podcast version, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for taking some time every day to tune in. Even if we're on in the background, you're still giving us a play in the download, so that's really all that matters. Make sure to catch us live if you can next week. If not, no worries. We do appreciate the heck out of you, but let us know your thoughts. Went over a lot of stuff here. Reacting to the Leon Cameron news, what do you guys think? What's going on with the MCG Twilight spot? Who's on the hot seat? And which team actually, which bottom 12 team has the most hope coming up to this year's finals? But Coach, we're going to cap things off with your thoughts in one word or phrase on the Leon Cameron experience.
For the most part, successful. Brand, yes, many detract to say, oh, talent, why didn't he win 2 or 3 flags? It's true, but my also retort is, especially coming from a coach's background, sometimes when you get all that talent, you don't have the people that are going to put in the work. So you don't just because you're talented does not mean that you're going to win a flag. And I think his coaching brilliance kind of came out towards the end of his tenure when a lot of the talent started to kind of seep away, and he had to get grunt guys. He had to get workhorse guys that they weren't first and second round draft picks. They weren't superstars. They were the take your lunch box hard hat type of players. So in my opinion, Leon Cameron's tenure there was for me.
I like that. I think so too. Especially coming from his press conference, the quotes like, I've been in the game for 34 years straight, but you never say never. If this is it for Leon Cameron, I certainly hope that the Giants are able to somehow send him off into the sunset. But at the least, I just hope that he has a fantastic, little bit of well-deserved time off, spend some time with his family. And, I just hope that, especially Giants fans, that we only look on his legacy is a positive one in the greater Western Sydney, instead of a negative one. Super happy for what he's done for the club, and I think it's going to be good for either team. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning to a round 8 breakdown. We can't wait to see you after the chaos after round 9, because a lot of these games seem like they're easy to tip. So of course that just means that it's going to all blow up in our face, and it's going to be a gigantic shit show. We'll see you next round.